It's game day, and Jaylen Henderson has the most to prove for the Aggies in this ball game.
You are Locked On Aggies, your daily podcast on the Texas A&M Aggies. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome on into Locked On Aggies. I'm your host, Andrew Stefaniak. Thanks for making Locked On Aggies your first listen every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more right now. New customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Today is the day. The bowl game is coming up. I'll tell you, bowl games, this is what is so exciting about a bowl game. And maybe even to add on top of that, a Wednesday bowl game. It's like, I just woke up this morning, it's like, oh yeah, it's game day. Like, you just forget about it because it's on a Wednesday and it's exciting. It's something to look forward to. I'm really looking forward to this ball game for many reasons. I discussed a bunch of those reasons on yesterday's episode of Locked On Aggies for those who missed it. I think this game is going to be important for the coaching staff. I think they're going to learn a lot about this roster, and they're going to find out, what do we need in the portal? You know, do we need more than we had previously imagined? Stuff like that. So that was a fun discussion. If you missed that yesterday, go check it out. But I think Jaylen Henderson, Texas A&M quarterback Jaylen Henderson, has a ton to prove in this game. And, you know, looking at why, I've seen a lot of people on Twitter, Texas A&M fans, kind of saying, you know, they'll see a quarterback pop up in the portal and they'll say like, ooh, shiny new toy. We want that guy. Go get that guy, you know. And I'll tell you, I feel really good about where Texas A&M is quarterback-wise. I think Conner Weigman is going to be an absolute monster next season. I mean, if the offensive line can keep him healthy, I think he will take the SEC by storm. I think Jaylen Henderson and Marcel Reed are going to be a really great, you know, back and forth competition for the backup quarterback role. Both of their styles of quarterback, I think Colin Klein will be able to use well. Same with Weigman and the fact that they're all athletic. They can all use their legs. They can all throw the football. I think that whichever one of those two wins the second job next season is going to be a fine backup quarterback. Now, you could argue if it is Marcel Reed that he's unproven, because he is. There wouldn't even really be an argument. But if it's Jaylen Henderson, I mean, going into this game, I mean, how many games did he have played at Mississippi State, Abilene Christian, LSU, right? Would it be 3 games he started? Let me double check on this. Yeah, 3 games. Mississippi State, Abilene Christian, LSU. So, and then this bowl game, he'll have 4 starts under his belt when, you know, if he were to have to play a little bit next season. That's something. 2 SEC games, played in a road environment against LSU. I mean, he will have played some football. You know what I mean? And so I feel good about this quarterback room as going into next season. And then, of course, Miles O'Neal coming in, the young guy, the young gunslinger. I think he's got a cannon. I think with a couple of years behind some of these guys, he could be a legit quarterback in this room at some point. But just looking at why this game is so big for Jaylen Henderson, to me, it's plain and simple. It's, you know, he's going to be fighting for a role as the backup quarterback on this roster. And if he goes out and plays well today against, you know, still a ranked Oklahoma State team, I know, listen, it's a bowl game. Both teams will be without players. Both teams will be without important parts of their team. It's just the reality of bowl season. But if Jaylen Henderson goes out, runs for 100 yards, throws for 284 and 3 touchdowns, without Noah Thomas and Aniyah Smith and Evan Stewart. You can't not be impressed with this kid. I've said it from the Mississippi State game on and now. I mean, he has played really good football. You cannot deny how good the football Jaylen Henderson has played. I mean, he has looked really sharp. He can do it with his legs. He can throw the football. Everything he's done on the field, I've been impressed with. And I think, once again, this is a opportunity on the big stage to show what he's got, to show that he can be the number 2 quarterback in this offense. And then maybe, hey, Conner Weigman goes out and has a big year. Maybe he moves on to the NFL after next season, and then Henderson's your guy. I mean, I think he's that good that maybe 1 year sitting behind Weigman leaves for the NFL perhaps. Henderson could be the dude. It'll be interesting to see. So that's what I'm paying attention to. I talked about yesterday. There's a couple more things. I'm going to watch this offensive line. I'm going to watch this defensive line. And I'm going to watch this wide receiver room to see, hey, who can step up in this room? Who will play well in this room? Because that's like I discussed yesterday. That's what will tell this coaching staff what they need in the portal. Hey, we maybe need another defensive lineman than I thought. We need more offensive linemen. That's where they're going to learn these things. So this game is huge for Jaylen Henderson. I'm also interested to see the tight end room in this ball game. I mean, you're obviously Max isn't going to be out there. Donovan Green's still not ready to go. It'll be interesting to see who steps up in this game in the tight end room. I don't with Donovan Green coming back next year. From his injury, I don't think I'm not too worried about that room when it comes to the portal. And of course, you already made the addition via the portal, the kid from Purdue. I keep forgetting his name. Let me pull up his name. But it's Garrett something. Garrett Miller, the tight end from Purdue. So you've already made an addition in that room. I'm not worried about bringing in anything else in that room. I just think it's safe to – I want to see, hey, can any of these guys on the roster help next year? And that'll be something I pay attention to. And then, we discussed this yesterday a ton with Noah Thomas, and it now sounds like he is officially not going to play. With him out, Jade Walker and Moose are going to have to be the 1-2 punch in this ball game. You're not going to have Evan Stewart out there. You're not going to have Aniyah Smith out there. Obviously, Noah Thomas, as we just said. So these guys are going to have to step up and be the dudes. Can they do it? Because they are going to be, with Noah Thomas, the 3 guys. So I think there's a legit world where one of these, Jade or Moose, is the number 1 receiver next year, unless Noah Thomas really takes over. And the question is, can these guys do it? And once again, that's what we're going to find out. Now, you have already made additions to the wide receiver and bringing in Cyrus Allen from Louisiana Tech and Javon Harvey from Old Dominion. So you've already made 2 additions. But I think that the goal and intention is still to have those 2 guys be your main receivers. So it will be fun to watch those guys play. These guys kind of, hey, can they take over? Can they really be legit one of these guys be a number 1 option in this offense, in Coach Colin Klein's offense? I'm eager to find out how these guys play. I have a feeling, like I said, we know who Moose is, and we think we know who Jade Walker is. I think you're going to find out who Jade Walker is tonight, and he's going to make some serious noise. So this bowl game, ladies and gentlemen, and I'll give my prediction right at the start of segment 2. This bowl game is, I think, more substantial than a lot of people give it credit. Yesterday in the comments, it was 50-50. I saw a couple people excited about the game and a couple people saying, who really cares, which I understand if you're not super interested in this bowl game. I just think there is a lot of reasons to be excited about it and a lot of reasons this game is important for the future. I'm going to give you my prediction for who wins this ball game and what we might see in this ball game coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. But first, I got to tell you about our friends over at FanDuel Sportsbook. As the weather gets colder, the NFL offers stay hot on FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is so easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and a ton more. I love using FanDuel. It's the app I use for all of my sports wagering. It's easy to use. It's fun to use. If I'm wagering on a ball game, I'm doing it on FanDuel, and you should too. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. So prediction in this ball game. You know, I think bowl games, I discussed this a ton. I think bowl games are such an interesting thing nowadays with the whole, opting out, not playing and stuff like that. It's changed bowl games a little bit, but I am still really looking forward to this game. And sometimes sometimes I'm going to come to you with numbers and stats and all this hard-hitting stuff on why I think we're going to win a game, why I think we're going to lose the game, why I think this player is going to do this or this. I just have a feeling in this one. I mean, you know what I mean? I'm just going to be brutally honest. I have a feeling Texas A&M is going to win this football game. I think they're going to win this game 35-31. And it's funny, like I said, there's not a ton of hard-hitting reason behind. I just think Texas A&M is going to win this game. I just think it's going to give Texas A&M some momentum heading into the offseason, heading into the final parts of the transfer portal, heading into the spring and all. I just have a feeling that this game is going to have a massive impact on kind of the future and some excitement. And I just think it's going to build some excitement in College Station around this program for the future. If we can beat the number 20 team in college football with all we've lost and everything gone, what can we do when we get our freshmen in and our transfers in and our coaching staff in? That's kind of what the way I'm looking at this. So I have a feeling the Aggies win this football game. But everybody let me know in the YouTube comments, score prediction, who wins the game, and give me an MVP. And I'll tell you I'll give you my MVP prediction. And if you've listened to segment 1 and you listened to yesterday's show, I think you might know who it's going to be. I'm just telling you right now, I think Johnny Walker has 100 yards and a touchdown. I almost want to say 2 touchdowns. I think he goes for 7 catches for $115 and a touchdown in this game. And he's going to look really good doing it and give Texas A&M fans a ton of hope for next season. So I've got some stats here from Texas A&M this season, and I want to lead this to another conversation. So the stats I have pulled up here, the Aggies were first in sacks in the SEC with 42. They were number 6 in the SEC in passing with 3,148 yards. 10th in rushing. So some of these numbers are great. Some of these aren't. I think that 6th in passing, knowing that you went through 3 starting quarterbacks, is great. I think number 1 in sacks is great. Doesn't come as a surprise knowing how good we thought this defensive line and front 7 would be. And of course, that became reality. 10th in the SEC in rushing. And I wasn't stoked with the yards per carry. It was one of the lower numbers in the SEC. Yards per carry is a number I want to see go up next season. And I think Coach Klein won't have an issue doing that. But once again, as it seems like everything does, and as I talk about a ton here on Locked On Aggies, a lot of that's going to come down to, can this offensive line play good football next year? The Aggies were 5th in the SEC in points per game. And then they were, this is funny, Texas A&M was 2nd worst in field goal percentage. They were 2nd best in made field goals because Texas A&M kicked so many darn field goals. So they were 2nd in field goals made because we kicked darn near, I think, 30 and made 23. But the percentage was the 2nd worst in the SEC behind only Vandy at 71.9, and Vandy only attempted 10 field goals. They were 7 for 10 at 70%. Texas A&M had a percentage of 71.9. So the field goal percentage, and that is important in and of itself. I think the reason that stat is so crucial to look at is Coach Klein's got to look at that and go, hey, we got to get in the end zone next season. Next year, I don't want you to have the most made field goals. I want you to have the most scored touchdowns. Field goals are great because they're points, but I really prefer 7-3 when it comes to a football game. I don't think anyone's going to disagree with me on that. That's a stat that needs to be improved, and I think Coach Klein's got to circle that, bookmark that on his notepad heading into the year and saying, we have to make this better. This has to be better heading in. This has to be better next season, or this team is not going to win a lot of football games. It can't be 3 points. It has to be 7. I mean, Coach Fisher reiterated that time and time again, and this team just couldn't seem to get it done once they got to the other team's side of the 40, 35. They just struggle. They struggle in the red zone. So that's something that needs to be better for next season. But I think that kind of, lifts the question of, this was a season of what ifs for Texas A&M, knowing that, and I always like pulling up these numbers. I mean, think about the losses. You lose to Tennessee on the road by 7 points. You lose to Ole Miss on the road by 3 points. And I mean, at the end of the day, you hate having to say it like this, but I think you could have won that game. I think you could have played overtime, missing a field goal that was a makeable field goal. Not putting this all on Randy Bond, not at all, but a makeable field goal that could have sent this to overtime. Could you have won it in overtime? Kind of my point here is the whole season of ifs thing. So you lose that game against Ole Miss by 3 points on the road. You go and you play a tight one, kind of, against LSU, lose by 12. I don't know if that's a tight. And then once again, lose by 6 points at home against Alabama. That Bama, not as much the LSU game, but that Bama, Tennessee, and Ole Miss game, the Aggies were right there the entire time and couldn't get the job done. So, I think it's a season of what ifs. I think it's hard to look at, even though this season did not go the way I had planned, I had anticipated, fans had anticipated and hoped. I get all that. Nobody was crazy stoked with how this year went. I still think you can look at this season and take away some positives and go, man, we were right there in a lot of these ball games. We were right there to where if a few different things fell our way, we could have taken down some of the best teams in college football. So kind of my point there, what I am getting at here is plain and simple is I don't think Texas A&M is as far off as people think. Now, coaching turnover leads to player turnover, leads to roster turnover. I discussed that, a ton. And obviously that's reality. You're not going to be going in the next season with the same roster you had heading into this season. It's going to be vastly different. You're not going to have Walter Nolan and Evan Stewart and a lot of these guys that made this team so talented, but you still are going to have a talented roster with what you have. It's reality. You've still done a good job closing on this recruiting class. There's going to be a lot in this class on this roster that will help you compete to win. I think that coaching staff is going to do a great job finishing up in the portal. So perhaps what this next regime can do is win the tight ball games. Because, I mean, there was a stat, and it's like if you flip all the one-score ball games, Texas A&M has a great, record comparatively. So, I think that needs to be priority number one as well for this coaching staff, along with, scoring in the red zone. It also needs to be, hey, we got to find a way to win the tight ones. If they can win the tight ones, I do think this team can have a really successful season in 2024. With the bowl game coming up, I wanted to have a little bit of fun and talk about my favorite memories. 3 favorite memories from the season this year. We'll talk about that coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. When it comes to favorite memories from this season, once again, it was a season of ups and downs, so I could give you my 3 most painful moments too. But favorite memory from the season, and I want everybody, listen, even that, hey, pause the video, go put it in the YouTube comments now before I say mine, but wait until after. But I want to hear everybody's 1 or 2 or 3 favorite memories from the season, or just favorite memory. So give me those in the YouTube comments. I'm curious, but I think my favorite memory was from the year. Number 1 was Ainias Smith's punt return against Arkansas. That kind of was the dagger. Heading into that play, it was 27-16 Aggies. He scores that touchdown to make it 34-16. And obviously, that was the difference in the game. But that really put them away. That touchdown put Arkansas away. And when Texas A&M was able to return that punt, Ainias Smith was able to look so shifty and take that back. It like I said, it was when I knew that ball game was over. I felt pretty good, and then Arkansas scored a bit of a garbage time touchdown that made the score a little bit closer than it was. But that touchdown really changed. I think was the night for the Aggies, and that was at a point in time coming off the big win over Auburn. You were 4-1, right? Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4-1. And there was some excitement. You were 2-0 in SEC play. Bama was coming into town. There was some excitement after that win, and I feel like that punt return is the one that really sealed the deal. My second favorite memory was Max Johnson's passing touchdown to his brother against Auburn. So, this was the game before the Arkansas game, and Conner Weigman goes down in this one. Max Johnson has to come in, and he comes in and does some stuff well. Looks solid at times. Makes a couple great throws. And Jake Johnson, it was the first time the brother-to-brother touchdown connection. It was just really cool to see. It was a fun story. It was a fun thing to talk about. So I enjoyed that. That was a fun memory from this season that I really did enjoy. So that was my second favorite memory. And then my third favorite memory, after that Auburn and Arkansas game, it was kind of hard to find fun memories to pull after the close losses to Bama, Tennessee, and Ole Miss. But I think was Jaylen Henderson coming in and getting the win over Mississippi State, blowing the Bulldogs out of the water in Kyle Field. Henderson has a $150 passing in this game and 2 touchdowns, 60 yards rushing and 2 rushing touchdowns in this game. That was a fun game. It was a fun one to really just kind of, hey, this kid, and I know that ended up being the final straw for Jimbo, but it was cool to see Jaylen Henderson come in, get the win. Wasn't a name we discussed a ton heading into the season, but injuries happen, and he was kind of, hey, we need you. You got to play some football for us, and he looked good and did a lot well for this football team. So that was my third favorite memory from the season. That's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Aggies. Like I said, let me know a few things in the comments. Give me your prediction for the bowl game. Who's going to win? Give me final score. Give me MVP. I'm curious of all of it. And then give me some of your favorite moments from this season. It was a season of ups and downs, but there were definitely some good memories mixed in there. So I'm curious to hear everybody's thoughts there. But like I said, that is going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Aggies. Thank you, everydayers, so much for being here. New folks for being here. I appreciate you all. I hope everybody has a great rest of your day today. Enjoy the ball game tonight, and we will recap the game, break the game down on tomorrow's episode of Locked On Aggies. Enjoy the game tonight, ladies and gentlemen. I know I sure will. Watch for those things that I'm talking about because they will be important going forward. And have a great rest of your day today. We will break down the game and see you tomorrow.